Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about white foundation mixers, and if you have fair skin, you probably already know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's a white foundation or a white pigment that you can mix into your foundations to lighten them. By no means do I have a massive collection of white mixers, and I urge you to research and find more brands. Like, there are tons out there that I haven't even tried, but kind of wanted to give you a rundown of the ones that I have used, ones that I've kept. So I want to start by talking about the MAC Face and Body Foundation. This is kind of one of the earlier brands that brought out a white foundation, and this is great. It's a huge bottle, 120 milliliters. The one thing that I will say about this guy is that it is very thin. I really like the formula of this. It is super natural and very just like dewy skin-like, so you're not adding anything heavy or creamy to your foundation. So this is really good if you have liquidy foundations that you want to lighten. I'm going to give you an example of each as I go, but this is a foundation that is, a little bit too dark for me. It's the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow. There is the before of the foundation, and there is the after. And what I really like about the Face and Body formula is that, it's not going to make your foundation look more cakey. It's really the most nude out of all of these, like the least noticeable formula change when you add this in. Kind of similar to the MAC Face and Body is this Body Shop Shade Adjusting Drops in Lightening. Obviously, they do come with a darkening version of this as well. This is also a very natural sheer formula, very liquidy, probably a tiny bit thicker than the MAC Face and Body. This one I find adds a little bit more moisture and luminescence to my foundations, but it's not bad. Like the MAC Face and Body, it's not super pigmented, but it definitely, helps. And it's pretty easily available. So there is the before and there is the after. So I would say this one is even less pigmented than the MAC Face and Body. Next is the NYX Pro Foundation Mixer, and this is a bit of a thicker formula. It's more of a cream, so if you are using a thicker foundation, I would recommend going with a thicker whitener as well. I think you can kind of see there, it's not dripping down my finger. This is probably one of the more pigmented ones that I own. This one is really nice consistency wise. I don't notice a lot of difference in my foundation, so I'll try to put the same amount there as I have been with the other two. All right, so there you can see the before and the after. And if anything, I would actually say that this NYX one actually adds a little bit of coverage. And I would say pretty good for all skin types. It's not drying, but it's also not really greasy or luminous as well. This one here is from H&M, which is kind of a little random find, but this is the custom color drops. This one is kind of the consistency of paint. It's not super runny, but it's not really thick either. I would say it's kind of medium pigmentation, but it does the job. This is probably better for people with kind of combo oily skin because it definitely dries down. A lot of these other ones stay a little bit more tacky. You can clearly see the before and after there. But yeah, I do really like that one because it dries down, and for me who has oily skin, it's just nice that it's not making my foundation, too greasy or too luminous. This is actually the last white foundation that I'm going to talk about, but it isn't the last thing that I'm going to talk about. But this is the LA Girl Pro Coverage HD High Definition Long Wear Illuminating Foundation in the white shade. Comes in a nice pump, which is really nice. I've been using this one a lot lately. I find that it's the most pigmented out of all of the ones that I've already mentioned. But it also is like the most tacky. Like, I find it really makes my matte foundations a little bit more dewy, and it doesn't really set all that well, but it looks nice. It's very smoothing. It doesn't dry out my skin. It doesn't mess with how the foundation looks so much as just how it feels a bit. There we go. Obviously the before and after there. This one also doesn't mess with the coverage of the foundation too much, which is, you know, really nice. So I mean, all of these 5 kind of have their own like pros or cons. I mean, they all really do the job. They're all gonna lighten your foundation. For most pigmented, I would probably say the LA Girl. In terms of finish, I think probably the NYX one. It really doesn't mess with my foundations because a lot of my foundations are this kind of like medium thick consistency, so you know it works really well with those. The MAC Face and Body and the Body Shop lightening drops, these are both very similar to me. They're both a little bit more dewy and thinner formula. This H&M one is the driest and most matte formula, so I use those all the time. But I also just wanted to mention that there are a lot of times that I just end up mixing my foundations, and you know, I have a lot of foundations that are a good shade, but maybe they're just not my favorite formula. So, you know, for example, this Josie Maran Vibrancy Argan Oil Foundation, you know, it looks beautiful on its own, but because I have oily skin, you know, I do prefer a more matte look. But this is a very pale foundation, so sometimes I'll just mix a couple drops of this in with like an Estee Lauder Double Wear, for example, and it just helps to lighten it up and just become a better shade for me. I also am constantly mixing in my NARS Sheer Glow in the shade Siberia. This is a really yellow toned base as well, so not only does it make the foundation lighter, but it also makes it a little bit more yellow as well. Which I constantly find is very helpful because so many of my foundations are like very beige or very like pinky beige. What a disastrous package though. Then 2 other really pale foundations are the Model's Own Runway Foundation in the shade Porcelain 01 and the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Water Foundation in also the shade Porcelain. This one, like the NARS Sheer Glow, is pretty yellow tone, but it's just so pale. I don't love this foundation on its own. I find it really settles and sinks into my skin weird, but dang, it's a pretty good color match for me. So this is great for just mixing in a couple drops just to get the color, but mixing it in with a foundation with a consistency that I actually enjoy. This one is a bit of a thicker formula, but if you kind of want a more peachy pink undertone, this Model's Own is very, very pale. All right, so that's kind of all I wanted to say. I know this wasn't like super revolutionary video or anything, but if you were thinking about trying a foundation lightener or a white foundation, you know, there are lots of options out there, way more than I even talked about. I will try to link these down below where you can buy them online. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video.